Hey guys, it's Rufus, and this is a problem that I see in a lot of people, especially in Gold and Below. Now, this is prevalent in Plat players as well, but if you really want to get to that next level, with your squad, you need to be communicating much better than you are. And I know that 99% of people already aren't communicating this way. So first, call out what you do. There's a lot of things that you do. I'm going to tell you what's important. Utility placement first. So on defense, you say you're placing an ADS. Say, I'm placing an ADS at red stairs. Or if you're Nomad, say, I'm placing an air jab at red stairs. Now that seems simple enough, right? Well, next, what else you might be doing, like peeking, or any type of movement, like rotating a position, pushing someone, falling back, or what you're watching. Say you're watching some rotate, or say you're watching blue for the attackers to push, right? Doing this will help your teammates know what they need to watch and how they can play around you. That's the purpose of all of this. It allows your teammates to play around you much better than they already can. Because what I've noticed in the past in a lot of situations is when people don't call out what they're doing, I won't realize where they are, and sometimes they'll surprise me, and this is how accidental TKs happen. In fact, when you communicate what you're doing, it's very rare for someone to accidentally TK, because they actively know where you are. And you can also call out when you're getting off cams or getting on cams. It's good to know if someone's on cams or not. And when you get off cams, you could remind someone, hey, someone take cams for me. Once again, this applies to both attack and defense, and so making sure that someone's on cams at all time can be very helpful. You also want to call out if you're, say, Thermite opening a wall, or if you're Sledge, or Ash. If you're using your utility, it's important to call that out so that your teammates know how to work around what you have caused, right? Also, this doesn't just apply to these examples. There are other times you might want to call out what you're doing, but it's up to you to decide if that information is important enough for your teammates to know. Next is when to call out the height of an enemy. Now, you only want to do this when that enemy is actively getting peeked or actively peeking someone, so that your teammate can adjust their crosshair to be at the best position to get that frag. Otherwise, calling out the height of an enemy is useless. I'll see people clutter comms because they'll call out that someone's crouch walking down some hallway or someone's proning holding an angle. While it is nice to know that information, it's not necessary unless someone's going to actually engage that person. So just think about, do my teammates really need to hear this? And if the answer is no, then just don't say it. Tip number 3 is to call out what the defenders or attackers are watching. Now, it's important to know that somebody's holding an angle on a certain doorway or window, so that you cannot, peek that doorway or window and get domed because someone's already watching it. Knowing what the attackers are watching better helps you figure out how the attackers are set up, and it lets you work around that in a way that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. Without that information, how are you supposed to know that peeking from one doorway or window is better than the other, right? So my final tip here is to call out utility, and this applies to both defense and attack. I'm going to start with defense now. Call out when Thermite or Hibana is opening a breach. That's a pretty simple one that most people get, right? But not everybody does it. Now, you also want to call out air jabs, claymores, breaching charges. If people are breaching something, if the attackers make any rotations, if they place any utility, it is important to know that, because it could come into handy for someone at some point in the round. Now, on attack, this is extra important, because you want to call out those castle barricades, those shields, those holes, lines of sight, rotations. You want to call out Grismot mines, goo mines, every single piece of utility that you see that the defenders have made or placed. The only time this does not apply is for the default barricades. Just don't call out those barricades. But if the defenders do place a barricade, then that counts. Now, the reason this is so important is because it helps your teammates, once again, play around the attacker's utility. And for the IGL, he can make calls based on how that utility is set up. Calling out utility is also extremely important because so many times, if you don't call out the utility, people will walk into a room and get killed because they didn't realize that there was a shield or there was a hole or whatever. And so a defender was holding an angle on their location and they got killed. Comms can be a huge problem for a lot of teams, so if you follow these tips, your teammates are going to do much better playing with you, and you're going to do much better playing with your teammates. This also helps clear up your comms, and listening is so much easier, and overall the experience with your teammates is more enjoyable. But that's all I had to say for this video, and if you learned something, give the video a like, and if you want to see more content like this, then subscribe. Toodles.